traffic transportation meeting. Just checking the boxes.
We're waiting for a few more. Oh, there's Sarah. Sarah just joined us. Great.
Yeah. I just let everyone in that was in the
Okay.
waiting room. There were quite a few people. Just trying to make sure.
Sarah, are we waiting for anybody else? It looks like Danny Randell is here. Also from oh no, Sina. There we go. Sina Phillips. She's going to be doing the presentation with Sarah, the two of you. Perfect.
Yeah, Danny's actually with MTA.
Yes.
Pleasantly surprised that he's on with us tonight.
Hey folks, how's it going?
All right.
Just here to support the presentation.
Okay. Which one? The Gun Hill one?
Yes.
Okay.
What other presentation is there?
No, because we had reached out to them about, because the bus that bus redevelopment is supposed to be start on the
redesign.
Yeah. So we were trying to get a comment from MTA as to what's going to happen.
I think they can correct me, but I think they're planning on doing some community outreach at some point in the
Yeah,
near future.
we sent out a invitation to community board leaders for a briefing on the redesign.
You're taking the fire away from my presentation for MTA.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Danny. All right, I just want to make sure we have everyone in. Okay. All right. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I am Edgar Ramos, Chair of the Traffic and Transportation Committee. This is Bronx CB7's Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. The committee agenda is as follows. I'll be first reading the meeting guidelines as I'm doing now. We'll have attendance after that, review of previous minutes if applicable, follow up on previous month if applicable. Under new business, we have from DOT, the Gun Hill Road proposal presentation. We have an MTA update in reference to the pre-implementation briefing for elected officials on the Bronx. I'll explain that further when we get to that. We have TD11 presenting after that. Our next meeting date will be September 8th, 2022. This is going to be the last meeting before our summer break for traffic and transportation. We're going to discuss our next agenda, and then we'll have our adjournment. All right. So we will now go to the attendance. Oh, a bigger couch. Okay. Edgar Ramos present. Jahara Arias.
Jahira Arias present.
Eric Asensio.
Eric Asensio present.
Lowell Green.
Lowell Green is present.
Andrew Leosa. Haven't seen him.
Andrew Leosa
Oh,
present.
there you are. Thank you, Andrew. And Daisy Perry.
Daisy Perry present.
Okay, good evening. We have a full attendance, so we have met quorum for the month of June.
That's what I was like, that's what I said the last one. All right, thank you so
Are
much.
these your shoes?
No.
Oh,
Buster, are you getting in the front?
oh, okay.
Someone needs to mute themselves and find their
Nice
shoe.
meeting you.
All right. See you the next session.
Next session, which I was doing. You know,
All right, so did everyone read the minutes for May? Hello? I need a
Motion
response
to
from the
accept
committee
minutes.
members. Did you all take a look at our May meeting minutes?
Did so.
Okay, does anyone have any changes or any any problems with the minutes? Well, I shouldn't say problem, I should say situation. Situations we can work on, right? All right, being no edits on it, we'll take a vote. Edgar Ramos, I agree with the minutes. Jahar Arias,
Jaira agrees with the minutes.
Eric Asensio,
Eric Asensio approves.
thank you, Eric. Lowell Green,
Lowell Green approves.
Andrew Leosa,
Andrew Leosa supports the motion to approve the minutes.
thank you, Andrew. Daisy Perry,
Daisy Perry approves.
thank you, Daisy. All right. Now that they've been voted on, they are official and they should be getting put onto the website. And, all right, so next on the agenda, we will be going to DOT. Are you guys ready for your Gun Hill proposal, guys?
We
Everyone
are
present?
ready.
Okey doke.
Already. We have everybody there.
We'll be presenting.
Good evening. Hi, everybody. Keith Calvin, Durham Bronx Borough Commissioner for the Department of Transportation. Thank you for having us. I have Holly Malone with us. She's our Green Wave Coordinator. She's going to be dropping off this meeting a little bit early because we have another meeting. I will stay with you for the duration. And then we have Sarah Fella from our Transit Development Group. She is going to be making the presentation on behalf of the New York City DOT, and she is joined by our colleagues at MTA, Senna, I'm sorry if I'm screwing up your name, Senna Phillips, and Danny Randell from the MTA. And that's it. That's all we have for tonight. Thanks. Sarah, go for it. You guys are familiar with this project, right? Gun Hill, bus improvements. We've been here before. We've talked to you guys. You've been on the cab. Most of you have been on the cab. So none of this should be new. We're just going to show you, well, we're going to show you the proposal of what we think would best work for this segment. Sarah, go for it. Take it away, please.
Great. Thanks so much for the introduction, Keith. Hey, everybody. My name is Sarah Feller. I'm on DOT's bus priority team. And today I'll be presenting about Gun Hill Road. As Keith mentioned, this is our second presentation to CB7 on Gun Hill. You all can see my screen, right?
Yes, but yeah, there you go, Sarah. Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, great. So yeah, this is our second presentation. Our last one was in April. We also have the CAB, the Community Advisory Board, that a number of you are on, and we really appreciate the feedback you've given us so far. For those of you who are on the CAB meeting last week, this is more or less the same presentation as last week. But for those of you who are not on the CAB, there is a lot of new information in this presentation. Today, the last presentation, we talked about the existing conditions, what Gun Hill Road looks like right now, and kind of brainstorming together ways that we could make the street work better, both for bus passengers, but really for everybody, with a special attention on safety. And now we're actually, we'll be showing our first initial draft proposal. I do want to emphasize this is just a draft. It's a first draft, and And what we're gonna do is we're gonna collect more feedback today in this meeting. We really want to hear your thoughts. Honestly, you know, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, you know, if there's any factors we might not be taking into account, you know, we really want to hear this stuff. That's why we're here. And then we're going to come back to the CAB in August to show a revised plan that integrates some of that feedback. So I'll go ahead and get started. There are some introductory slides. I think you all have seen them, but I'll go through them real fast. So why are we doing this on Gun Hill Road? Obviously, it's a major east to west corridor in the North Bronx for all modes of transportation, and certainly for bus passengers as well. There are 40,000 people a day who use the bus routes that go on Gun Hill Road. So, I mean, if you imagine how many buses full of people it takes to reach 40,000, it's a really high demand corridor, one of the busiest bus corridors in the Bronx. And as a result, MTA and DOT named it one of 10 key Bronx corridors where it's most important to invest in making the bus faster and more reliable. Senna, could you speak to the bus speeds on Gun Hill Road?
Sure thing. So these slides will probably look a little bit familiar to some of you, but just as a reminder, here's some data highlighting how the traffic conditions on Gun Hill Road impact our buses. The BX 28 and 38 generally move pretty slowly all day with speeds of less than 7 miles per hour. During those critical peak service hours where folks are maybe trying to get to work or pick up kids from school, speeds can dip as low as 5 miles per hour. When we have slow speeds like this, bus customers spend more time in traffic, creating longer travel times when folks really are relying on efficient, high quality bus service the most. And then if we compare that to overnight travel times, we see for customers who are traveling that full length of the corridor, spending about 15 to 17 minutes of additional time during those peak periods, which really adds up if you're someone who uses this corridor every single day. You can move to the next slide, Sarah. Yeah, so then this slide just gives you all a sense of how the Gun Hill Road bus routes compare to other Bronx bus routes. This graph shows route level bus speeds over time during the AM and PM peak periods. Here you can really see that the BX 28 speeds are especially underperforming compared to the Bronx borough-wide local bus speeds. And this just generally emphasizes kind of the need for some sort of traffic intervention on this corridor. I also just want to highlight the significant speed gains that we can see kind of during the pandemic on all of our bus routes around April 2020. You know, unfortunately, you can see that those bus speeds have declined back to pre-pandemic levels with that return of traffic and with the return of bus ridership. So a key goal of this project really is to try to maximize the speed gains as much as possible to hopefully bring us back towards that pre-pandemic or that pandemic level high speeds that we saw. Thanks, Sarah.
One other really important factor is, as well as the crash history on Gun Hill Road. I mentioned this in our last presentation, but I'll say quickly that we crunched 5 years worth of crash data from 2015 to 2019, which are the most recent years available. And we found in those 5 years, more than 1,200 people were injured in crashes on Gun Hill Road. That's almost 5 people a week, and that includes pedestrians, vehicle passengers. It includes, you know, the numbers are high for all modes of transportation. This makes it one of the more dangerous streets in the Bronx. And as a result, you know, one of our objectives in this project is to help to make this street safer. Another thing that we did just a couple of weeks ago, DOT went out onto Gun Hill Road in person with our street ambassador team, and we held public outreach pop-ups. And ultimately, we spoke with over 100 bus riders, which I think is pretty impressive. And we're really grateful to the folks who shared their time and expertise with us. So we spent a day at Gun Hill and Bainbridge, next to Montefiore within CB7. And we also spent a day at Gun Hill and White Plains by the 2 train, and another day at Gun Hill and Knapp Street by the 5 train on the Dyer Avenue line. We're still, because this was just a couple weeks ago, we're still summarizing all the comments we got. You can see what we encourage folks to do is tell us, what's your neighborhood, what bus routes do you use, and what do you wish the bus would do differently or do better? And so some of the more frequent comments that we had are faster service, first of all, more frequent and consistent service. That means buses coming on time, buses coming at even intervals instead of bunching up 2 or 3 together and then no buses for a long time. And the first bus is really crowded and then the next bus behind it is more empty. You know, getting rid of that issue and crowding in particular was something that we heard a lot about as well. And bus lanes, which is, you know, a big part of our proposal here, can help to address all of these things, not just by making the bus faster, by helping it cut ahead of traffic, but also by helping to ensure that, you know, to make the schedule more reliable. So, you know, if a bus, so if there's no bus lane, sometimes a bus hits all the red lights and hits all the traffic and it takes the bus 20 minutes to go down a given street. The next bus gets luckier with traffic and red lights and it's 10 minutes. Bus lanes and bus priority actually help to even that out to make the service more reliable and prevent buses from being bunched together. To quickly summarize our goals and our challenges, we're looking to make bus service fast, reliable, and on time. We also want to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities, and also make traffic more organized and especially reduce the double parking that, as we know, especially in the CB7 section of Gun Hill Road, reduces the street from 2 through lanes in each direction to 1 through lane for, I think, most of the day. And that's a big part of our proposal as well. Some of the challenges, you know, we're definitely aware that, that this is a challenging street to work on. It's narrow, it serves a lot of different purposes, getting folks to and from the hospital and the parkway. And we also know that it's a bottleneck because there are very few through streets to get around the parkway. So, you know, we're definitely aware of these issues. Some of the issues you can solve in a 1-year or a 2-year project. Some of them obviously are longer term, bigger issues, but we're definitely aware of all of them. And our objective is to really make sure that, you know, we're on the street in person, understanding the issues, not just spending time on Gun Hill Road, but spending time on each individual block, walking back and forth, taking the bus back and forth, different times a day, different days of the week. Because every street is different and every block is different. And if we're going to put something in that works, it needs to be customized. So next, we'll go ahead and show you the draft proposal. And so we'll go through this block by block. But in general, what we're looking at, and I'll show you some more detailed images that make it more clear in a second, but in general, what we're proposing for this draft proposal is a westbound center running bus lane. So in the westbound direction going from Webster to Bainbridge Avenue in Montefiore, a bus lane that runs in the left lane and that has boarding islands in the middle of the street for bus passengers to get on and off safely. And that also help to provide pedestrian refuge as they cross the street. And then in the eastbound direction, we're proposing an offset bus lane, which keeps the parking and it's just one. And so, sorry, you keep the parking and then the bus goes in the right side bus lane. So here's what that looks like. So we'll do it from west to east, from Bainbridge Avenue to Webster Avenue. And so this illustration shows 2 blocks. So this is Bainbridge Avenue here on the left with Montefiore Hospital on the bottom left and the center left. And then Wayne Avenue, which is the big parking garage entrance for one of the big Montefiore garages. And then Tryon Avenue on the right-hand side here. So the first thing you'll notice again is that this bus, if you're looking in the westbound direction from right to left, the bus is in the left-hand lane. And there's a few reasons for that. Number one, the bus already has to make a left turn onto Bainbridge to access Montefiore, and the bus stops there. So if the bus is already in the left lane, then the bus doesn't have to wait for a gap in traffic to get into the left lane to make that turn, and the bus doesn't need to try to make the turn from the right lane, which can be a safety concern. So additionally, we know that this is a really, really busy section of Gun Hill Road. You have stores on almost every block. You have a lot of pickups and drop-offs and deliveries. You have, pretty big apartment buildings. So there's a lot of curb demand, and we want to discourage double parking. And by that, I mean, make sure that we're managing the curb better. So that way, whenever someone pulls up to the curb, if they need to access a business or a home, if they can do so. You know, we need to accommodate people's needs to get around and to go places, but to make sure that there's a space available on every block at pretty much all times, so that way you don't have to double park, risk getting a ticket and block traffic. I think that's a lose-lose. So, so curb regulation is a big part of this proposal as well that we're still developing, but things like neighborhood loading zones and loading zones for businesses and potentially adding meters to blocks that don't have meters yet. We're still working out the block by block details, but that would certainly be a part of this proposal, and we're currently developing that. You'll hear more. You'll hear more from us on that as well. So anyway, back to the westbound bus lane. You know, if you have the bus in the left lane, then a double parked vehicle is not going to block that bus lane. The bus lane is more likely to actually work. But additionally, what we found on 161st Street and other places where we put in these kinds of left side bus lanes is that vehicles aren't willing to block the only through lane. And so double parking really does reduce, both because we're managing the curb better and creating more opportunities for folks to park at the curb legally, but also because they don't want to block the only traffic lane. And that's actually worked pretty well. You'll also notice we're adding a dedicated left turn bay onto Wayne Avenue here. This is, as I mentioned, one of the big parking garage entrances. There's a lot of vehicles that go in and out of this street. We're also looking at curb regulation improvements on Wayne Avenue. One piece of information that we received in our outreach so far is that, you know, if you have a delivery happening on Wayne Avenue or a double parked car, then cars can't make that turn onto Wayne, and that slows down traffic on Gun Hill and helps to cause that gummed up traffic. So we're working on improving that as well. One other thing to note is you'll notice in the eastbound direction from left to right, from going from Bainbridge towards Webster Avenue, the bus lane doesn't start yet in that direction. You'll see it on the next block, but we know that these blocks are really busy. There's a lot of traffic, and we really want to make sure that we're accommodating those vehicles, you know, properly. So these are the next two blocks. And one more thing that I'll note is if you have any questions after this, we can go back into these, you know, go back to these slides, talk through any questions. I can re-explain things. I know it's kind of a lot of information, but these are the next two blocks from Tryon Avenue to King's College Place to Putnam Place. Again, in the westbound direction, like from right to left, you see that, that bus lane in the left lane. You also see a bus boarding island here. And so this is the bus stop. And the reason why we put it at the island, of course, is that way the bus can pull right up to the stop and not have to get all the way over to the curb, cross traffic to get there, and then cross traffic again to get out of the bus stop. Additionally, the bus can pull up perfectly parallel to this boarding island because it doesn't have to, you know, pull from the moving lane into the parking lane. And that makes it easier to board, especially for folks who use wheelchairs or walkers or parents with strollers. It makes it much easier for the wheelchair ramp to deploy and let folks on and off. You also see that the eastbound bus lane begins just after Tryon Avenue. And so you see we're keeping the parking and the right side lane is the bus lane going eastbound towards Webster. In order to fit all of this in, we did have to restrict a couple of left turns. So the westbound left turn from Gun Hill going on to Tryon Avenue southbound towards Williamsbridge Circle. That is a left turn that we had to restrict to make sure that we were fitting in the bus lanes, the boarding islands, the moving lanes for cars, and the parking on the south side. We were really careful when we looked at, okay, where might we need to restrict a left turn? And if we need to do this, where can we do it that has the least impact on the least number of vehicles? So that's locations where there are fewer turns to begin with, and also locations where there's an easy way to get to that block. So we want to make sure that any home, any business on these side streets, you can still get there. There is still access at all times in any vehicle, and that the reroutes aren't too out of the way. You know, nothing's perfect, and I like to say that nothing worthwhile is easy. There's always going to be trade-offs to make when you're looking to, you know, work on a busy street and a narrow street. But, you know, we're trying to make these trade-offs consciously, and we definitely want to hear your thoughts on that. But with that said, we did need to restrict the left turns for this draft proposal onto Tryon Avenue from westbound going to the southbound Tryon, as well as Putnam Place going from westbound Gun Hill Road to southbound Putnam Place. 2 more blocks now, Putnam Place to Reservoir Place and Perry Avenue, and then to Hall Avenue. And again, you know, you see the bus lane in the westbound bus lane is in the left lane. We added a dedicated turn lane onto onto Reservoir Place. You can see that here. So that way, and this is both a traffic improvement, but also a safety improvement, because if a vehicle has a left turn bay and it's waiting for a gap in opposing traffic to make that left turn, there's no, you know, you're not getting honked at by the cars behind you that want to go straight. You can take your time and wait for a safe gap in traffic. And so that's actually a safety improvement there as well. I think I already mentioned the left turn restriction onto Putnam Place from westbound Gun Hill into southbound Putnam. Let's see here. You also can see the eastbound bus lane going towards Webster Avenue in the offset lane. And that's about it for these 2 blocks. And then 2 more blocks within CP7. So this is Hall Avenue, Decatur Avenue, and Webster Avenue. You'll see that the westbound left side bus lane begins just past Webster, or right around Webster. You can see a boarding island here in the westbound direction. And again, that allows folks to make the transfer onto Webster Avenue. It also has a nice benefit for pedestrian safety as well, because even if you're not using the bus, if you're crossing in this crosswalk here at Decatur Avenue, excuse me, this is a refuge island that you can use just to cross, whether you're using the bus or not. Sorry about that. We are proposing to restrict the westbound left turn onto Putnam Place here. And you'll also see that the eastbound bus lane ends at Decatur Avenue. And again, that's because the last block here from Decatur to Webster, or really, you know, this corridor in general, traffic is really heavy. And we're definitely aware that there's it can be bumper to bumper, you know, various times a day. You know, we definitely know that. And so at the most critical blocks, we're actually cutting the bus lane short to make sure that all vehicles can fit and to try to prevent the kind of traffic spillback. So there is the block by block details. In terms of the time frame here, as I mentioned, back in April, we came to all 3 CBs, 7, 11, and 12, as well as we had our first CAB meeting in March, talking about the existing conditions and everyone's needs and wants for this street. That feedback helped us to refine this proposal. And we're also still, we're actually still doing traffic analysis and curb usage analysis. So we're currently reviewing a pretty detailed traffic model, and that's a software model that allows us to see what the traffic impact is of this draft proposal. So our engineers are still reviewing that. And so, as I said, this project is very much still a living thing. And you'll hear back from us as we get the feedback from that traffic analysis, as well as we figure out on a block by block basis in a really detailed way, how can we make sure the curb is being used better and make sure that folks have opportunities to park and stand at the curb instead of double parking. So right now, May and June, we're continuing that analysis. We're also sharing the draft proposal with you all, as well as with CB 11 and 12 in the coming weeks. And we'll be listening and incorporating feedback that you have, that you give us tonight. And then later this summer, we're looking to go back to the CAB to share the updated plan. And our objective is to implement this year. late summer into the fall. And that's because, we know that there are issues right now, they're longstanding issues. We really want to solve them as soon as we can and get these improvements and especially get these safety improvements up and running as soon as possible. So we want to make sure that we're thorough in our outreach. But we also, we know that there's little time to waste. And if we want to get this project in the ground this year, we need to start in the summer because by the time, when fall comes around, it gets too cold for the red paint and the lines on the street to stick and things like that. So there you have it. Thank you so much for your time, and we're very, very happy to field your questions. I see we have a lot in the chat right now.
Sarah, just for clarification real quick, before we start on the questions, you had stated 40,000 passengers for that, for your guys' study. Now, I know MTA, this might be more of an MTA issue, more of an MTA question than a DOT question. Due to the issues that they've been having with people not paying their fare, how accurate is that count? And did you guys have spotters doing the counts, or what was done to get an accurate number? Because going by just what's out the fare box, if people aren't paying their fares, then that number would not be fairly accurate.
Hi, Edgar. Yeah, I'm happy to field that question. You're totally right. This number, the 40,000 that you saw in the last presentation, is based off of just MetroCard swipes only. So it is that fare box recorded data, and that is what we publicly report. So it does not capture or reflect the fare evasion levels. So as you can imagine, ridership is generally higher than 40,000. And we do have ways of capturing that. Automatic passenger counts is one way that we look at that. And that's something that we're looking at internally, not something that we publicly report.
But I'm just like, is that part of the decision making in what's being proposed here? I guess would be the better question.
Ridership is certainly one factor. I think our identification of this corridor is generally that, even with fare paying customers, we do see a generally high ridership on this corridor compared to other corridors. So that is how it was selected, as well as the fact that this corridor is seeing those declines in speeds and in bus reliability.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Edgar, do you want to, I don't know if you want to call on folks. I don't know if you have an order.
Does anyone from the committee have any questions?
I do.
Go ahead, Lo.
A question and a comment. My comment is, good luck on the double park cars between Wayne and Bainbridge, because there's one deli there that I think everybody likes and does all the time, morning, noon, and night. And I think you may have to be ready with a couple of tow trucks to
Lowell,
pull some.
what's the intersection?
Wayne and Bainbridge. It's Antonio's Deli.
Wayne and Bainbridge.
Yeah, it's on Gun Hill, on Gun Hill, between Wayne Avenue and Bainbridge.
Gotcha.
And it's called Anthony's.
Anthony's. Okay.
And
Going westbound.
Right. Thank you.
right, and there's somebody always there morning, noon, and night. And my other question is, have you, between King's College Place and Putnam, not necessarily on Gun Hill, but on King's College and Putnam, there's a public school. And have you taken and count all the school buses that come and go there at specific times?
So we did do traffic counts of the number of vehicles that make, that go through and that turn onto that street. So yeah, that is part of our analysis. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And also thank you for the comment about that deli in particular. That's actually the really helpful comment and there's a couple of really good delis around there. I think I've been to all of them, but we can, we can do things at that, on that block and in front of that deli, just to help make sure that there's an available space for folks when they pull up.
And I'm sure that all the people who work at Montefiore would not like me for that comment, because it's been a mainstay and it is open 7 days a week, 24 hours. And I think most anybody who has worked at Montefiore has been in that facility at some time in a week, every week. They've been there at least once.
Definitely. And our objective, and I mentioned this earlier, is to ensure that people have access to businesses, whether they're walking there or driving there. That's a really big focus. So thanks for that comment.
Just for clarification, so everyone knows, we first go to the committee members for questions, for clarification questions, and then we'll go to the open public. So next would be Eric Asensio.
Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Sarah, for the presentation. I'm a little curious to know what happens on the other side of Webster, on that bridge between White Plains and Webster, to be honest. But also, you pointed out that the left turn on Hall Avenue will be restricted, right? And Hall Avenue is probably one of the few streets that goes north-south in that vicinity. It takes you all the way down to Moshulu Parkway. Restricted, that would mean that people will have to go into the Reservoir Place and go around the Oval in order to get into that neighborhood, right? You wouldn't have a direct connection there. Let's say if I wanted to go to like 209 and Hall or Decatur per se, right? Since Perry and Decatur are both south, they empty into Gun Hill. So I don't know, maybe there's something we can look into that. But I understand the logic why it would need to be restricted because of where the bus lane is positioned.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and thank you for that. That's a good point. I know that like the street grid is not exactly a grid, around this part of Gun Hill, between the park and the cemeteries to the north and everything else. It's tough because you have a bus stop here in the eastbound direction, and so there's not really room for a left turn lane. And in fact, if you allowed the left turn from the bus lane, then again, all it takes is one car that's waiting for a gap in opposing traffic, and then the bus lane doesn't function for a minute or 2 minutes or however long it takes. And so, but I appreciate that comment, and I'll see if there's anything we can do. I'll look into that. Thank you. And I think you had a question before that. Could you remind us real quick?
No, and then my other comment, I guess. So this will be the bus stop originally for the one at Decatur is on Webster, right? It's further closer to Webster.
The current bus stop between Webster and Decatur. No, right now the front of the bus stop is right here by the stop bar. The shelter is like right about here where I'm pointing right now. So it'll be about the same.
Okay, gotcha. That was pretty much my comments. Other than that, I think it seems doable. I have been stuck on traffic many times on the buses here, so I appreciate you not limiting the two lanes going east as much, because that kind of really helps push traffic.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I have a question from Andrew Leosa. Just a heads up, after Andrew Leosa, I'm gonna handle Sirio. Just whoever has questions, please put your hand up if you can. So Andrew, go ahead.
You have an hour. really. I mean, I'll start out with I always say this and I continue to say it. It's like a fantasy world. I mean, you have to come up to the Bronx and just open up your eyes and see what's going on. The streets, there's anarchy in the streets, and all the plans you make. I mean, I sympathize, and you put a lot of effort into it, but there has to be enforcement. So Laurel Green brought up the deli. Well, there's the pizza shop on the corner. And who is one of the biggest violators of double parking at that pizza shop? And if you put a video camera there, I can prove it. It is the NYPD. The NYPD double parks their car to go inside to get their pizza or whatever. So that's just an example of I mean, there has, without enforcement, well, if the Supreme Court allows carry permits, I guess maybe the population will go down because all those vehicle owners with guns are going to end up shooting each other because it's going to be chaos. So, for example,
Andrew, positive thoughts, no negativity on our.
Okay. So,
Let's try and focus on the bus
you're
lane
invited
on
to
Gun
sit
Hill.
in my kitchen table
Try
and
and
look
keep
out
the
my
scope
window,
limited.
which overlooks Wayne Avenue, where the parking garage is. Especially in the winter when there are no leaves on the trees, you will see, and I am not kidding. I know everybody thinks I exaggerate, but I can prove it with a video camera. There are hundreds of vehicles that are proceeding westbound on Gun Hill Road that make that left turn to feed into the parking lot. And just so you know, by the way, you guys did a great job of putting no standing signs on Wayne Avenue with the express purpose of allowing cars not to be queued up to allow easy access to the garage. Well, guess what? Cars park there every day, zero enforcement. So the no standing signs are not working. And that left turn, I guarantee you, the cars will be queued back up, blocking that center bus lane. I guarantee that's going to happen, unless somehow maybe you have a left turn light, a left turn arrow light, and even then, I don't know. But that's my biggest complaint
Andrew,
is that
where
from
is
Gun
the
Hill.
left that you're talking about? Onto what
Proceeding
left?
westbound
Onto
on
Wade?
Gun Hill Road, there's a left turn on Wayne going to the garage. That
Right.
garage is empty at night, and it's filled up with hundreds of cars that exit from the Bronx River Parkway. They go up Gun Hill Road. They make that left turn. And I could see, from what I can see on the map, it looks like maybe there's maybe you could scroll over the map so people can see what I'm talking about.
Sarah,
There's maybe like four car lanes can sit
to Wayne.
without blocking the bus lane. That's not enough.
So
it's a
we're
disaster.
proposing to keep the left turn bay there. So we can initiate a study to see if we can get a signal study there for a left turn, dedicated left turn, but no guarantees that it will get installed, but we can certainly take a look at that.
I'll also note that in terms of the length of this turn bay, and you're right, maybe it fits 4 or 5 cars in its length. And we had to kind of trade that off with ensuring parking on this block as well. But we'll look at that again. I forget. I don't think there's stores on this block here, so maybe we could make this left turn bay longer. And one thing I mentioned as well, we spoke with Montefiore, and again, they made a point that one of the big issues on Wayne Avenue that causes backups on Gun Hill is this is a narrow street. It's a 2-way street. There is no standing here. It's not always, it's not always adhered to. And if you have a delivery vehicle, double parking, then you really don't have a functioning street. So we are looking to see, we're working directly with Montefiore to see how we can help to make that work better.
Can there be dialogue between NYPD, traffic enforcement, and DOT? I mean, it seems like the agencies don't communicate. All the plans in the world are
Andrew,
not
we
going to
communicate
work.
with them all the time.
That's serious enforcement. For example, that food truck is still on the northbound Bainbridge Avenue side, and I'm had arguments with the police, and I've been told basically to mind my business. And I'm not going to say by who, but I have official 311 calls, and that food truck is still there. What's going on?
Andrew, you took away my thunder. Sarah, I was gonna ask you if you ever got a chance to, because I remember at the last meeting, you said you would try to take a look at that food truck that's having the issue, that's on Bainbridge, that's in a no standing area, that's creating a cluster issue at the bus station, the bus stop.
Yeah, Keith, can you speak to how that curb reg works? And I think that's the one, so it's the food truck that's on Bainbridge itself where I'm pointing here. Yeah.
So it's a no standing any time, and it's an enforcement issue. We're gonna have to coordinate with the police department. We're actually meeting with Monty next week or the week after, I'm not sure. It might be the following week, to go over some of their concerns related to parking and enforcement around the facility, their campus.
Keith, did we say, I might be misremembering this, but I think we might have said that we could actually change the curb regulation here from no standing to no stopping, which would make the food truck, which would actually legally ban the food truck from operating here. Is that true, or am I wrong?
We can look at that as an option.
Okay. So yeah, so we're still looking at that.
Yeah. But either option, I mean, I think enforcement is the bigger issue or the bigger concern. Because then someone else will park there, you know?
Yes, we are working closely with the police department.
Okay, thank you, Keith.
But we still would like the board to, of course, also request additional enforcement. Because we can ask for it, but if as long as there's other folks also asking for it, it helps our argument out.
We didn't know you needed our support, but we'd definitely help you with that.
No, we listen, the more people that sort of let them know that they need to be doing enforcement at certain locations, it's important.
Yep. Okay, we have Serial, you have a question?
Two parts. Good evening.
This is related to the Gun Hill bus, right?
Yes.
Okay, just want to clarify.
Do this for a half hour to ask a different question. No, my question is, out of over 40,000 people, the survey only interviewed 100, and I want to know what kind of percentage would that be of comments of the community that you can depend on only a lousy 100 people when you have way over 40,000 people using the buses. And my second thing was more like an observation, which I think it goes hand in hand with what Andrew was saying. Many times in traffic, when I'm driving, I don't drive, when my son drives, cars make illegal U-turns in the middle of Gun Hill Road. And not only and they can't even do it smoothly, they have to do it fractionally and squeeze in and around and tie up both lanes to make a legal U-turn. And I understand as once again is going to fall into enforcement, or unless you're going to put up fencing across the Gun Hill Road to keep cars from making the turns, because the lines and the colors on the street does not mean anything to anybody. They would drive down the middle of the road if they have to get somewhere. And that's basically my comments, I guess, more than that. But I would like to know what kind of percentage is 100 people in a survey? Feedback, thank you.
Sure, yeah, and I hear you loud and clear. I mean, these buses are packed day in and day out. And this is what we do. And you can see in the pictures, we have this set up with a table. Sometimes we use a tent as well. We try to make sure, we have people's attention, that we're visible. You can see the little balled up tote bags in the bottom right photograph. We really try to incentivize folks, to reward them for their time and for their knowledge, and to encourage them to speak to us. We also come out with translators. I know we had Spanish translators at the deployment at Bainbridge, as well as bilingual staff. But ultimately, bus riders are busy people. They're going to work, they're going to appointments, they're picking up their kids. And in general, having 100 folks speak to us most of the comments we got, that 100 mostly came from Bainbridge and from White Plains, which are the busiest locations. So, 100 folks it's not a big percentage. We can't call this a perfectly scientific study, but we did go out there and encourage anyone who wants to speak to us to speak to us. And that comes in addition to, this community board meeting, our community board, our round of community board meetings in April, the community advisory board, our meetings, and we're happy to meet with anyone, anytime. We offer meetings to schools, to any institution, community groups. We want to do as much outreach as we can. Ultimately, folks are busy. They give us as much time as they have to give us. But we're always here, and we want to make sure that we're engaging folks as much as we can. In terms of U-turns, that's a good question. Are there any particular locations or times a day where you've seen that the most? And we can try to see if there's anything we could do to help try to prevent that.
The answer to that is always at any time when any knucklehead decides that he made a mistake and wants to get where he's going and screw everybody who's driving on the street. And it's sad because this is not anything against DOT. It's just human courtesy has went out the window. And it's sad because some of this stuff looks really nice when you look at it, but when people go out there, it's sad. It's like Andrew says, it's very sad.
Thanks for those comments. We appreciate that. And, like I said, we work with NYPD as well as trying to, use the design of the street to make.
Thank you so much for coming to our community to do something, to try to improve something that's been a disaster for many, many years. And I got to get my hats off to you. And I'm just waiting patiently when they're going to make Keith the commissioner of the Bronx. And I just call him that. He's acting, because he does not act like a commissioner. He is the commissioner. And thank you.
Hear you loud and clear. Thank you. And yeah, we agree. Keith is a great member of the team.
Thank you, Sarah.
I think, Sarah, just the FYI, I think some of that might be resolved when they start putting the bus stops in the middle, for the section, because I know on the Father Zismore, when you come down past 181st Street Bridge, going down towards like Yankee Stadium, the area there where there's the actual bus stop, that stuff, they're actually fenced in. So there's absolutely no way any vehicle could try to do a U-turn. They'll be forced to do it either in the intersection or at another place, right?
That's a good point, definitely.
Okay. Eric, I see your hand is still up. Do you have another question or comment?
Yes, I do, but I was gonna let other people go first. But if I may just ask, my question was about the number of bus stops along this corridor because of that less left turn on Hall. I was wondering how many bus stops they are and how many, if they can be shifted around. Would the MTA consider that? That's all.
Yeah, Senna, maybe you're the person to speak to that because of the Bronx Bus Network redesign.
Yeah, of course. So on this corridor itself, during Bronx Bus Network redesign, we did reconsider some of our stop locations along the BX 28 and 38 corridors. And ultimately, we did decide to consolidate some of those stops just to minimize or improve the distance between stops, giving people faster travel times. So that is something that we're doing. And this proposal does reflect those bus stop consolidations that we've outlined in the report. I'm happy to send a link in the chat to the new route profiles for the BX 28 and 38, and that should show kind of what stops we've eliminated in this process. And then, yeah, so we have considered bus stop consolidations, and then, you know, where Sarah's team has proposed these boarding islands, some of them have required us to shift our bus stops around. We ultimately consider that because these are really great improvements that definitely help speed up our service. So we're trying to accommodate that as much as possible. I'll also point out like the bus stop around the 5 train at Knapp Street, that bus stop right now is kind of, an ADA or sorry, not an ADA, just a general crossing concern where we're concerned about Vision Zero and folks potentially, ending up in a busy traffic lane, crossing the street kind of at whatever feels comfortable to them. And, we've worked with DOT to try to find an optimal location for that stop, moving things around. It's a work in progress for sure. So if there are more recommendations that you have for where we can maybe improve things, please do let us know. But I think that's something that we've definitely considered in this project.
Thank you for that. Just a heads up, I don't see any more hands up in the chat. I'm sorry, from the participants. I'm looking for a hands up sign for anyone that needs to speak or would like to speak. I see, Andrew, your hand is still up. Do you have any more questions?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Mhm.
The large supermarket eastbound on Gun Hill Road, you're aware of that and to deal with, as you know, large tractor trailer trucks double park to do their deliveries. How is a very large supermarket going to manage food and supply deliveries and traffic flow?
Certainly, and yeah, we're definitely aware of that supermarket. This is a photograph we took of that exact block in front of, I'm assuming you mean the Fine Fair at Hall Avenue. And yeah, big supermarkets, they get a lot of deliveries, and their delivery folks have to make a lot of stops, so they'll often double park. You see that here. This is a prime location for a dedicated loading zone. So I think this is alternate side parking. Maybe it's metered. Actually, I think it's metered. This is a location where we could restrict this. So maybe for half the block, it's deliveries only for certain times of the day. And we can even reach out to the supermarket and ask their manager what times a day they get most of their deliveries. And that can be helpful. We can also look at adding loading zones on the side street around the corner. I think they have a side entrance and a loading area there. But we also know realistically, if you're a delivery person making 8 deliveries in your shift, you want to take a direct route. So we're going to try to put something in on this block.
All right, thank you for that, Andrew. I have Davion Littlefield has a question.
Edgar, I wanted to say something about, I live down the block from that supermarket.
Right.
They do 90% of their deliveries are done on Whole Avenue. I'm sorry, Perry, where the side street, because they have the entrance
right
in the back of the store there. And they make the deliveries on the side street more in front of the hydrant than in front of the store, because they can't bring the stuff through the front. They
have a loading dock onto the side.
There's a, thank you, yes, there is a loading dock on the side. But may need a designated loading time. Deliveries would be nice for them.
Right.
For sure, and that's actually really good to know. So if they're already most of the way there, if they're already getting most of their deliveries on Hull, maybe it's just the last 10%, 20% that are causing this issue, and that's where a loading zone or some other sort of curb regulation to give them a space at the curb. That's what that can do.
More reason to keep the left turn.
Okay, so Davian, I'm sorry, your question, please.
It's okay. Hey, good afternoon or good evening rather. Thank you for providing us with all this information. I don't know what the timing was as you built this plan, but I'm concerned because I live on Reservoir Oval and between Tryon and Wayne, so this is all very familiar to me. One of the great advances in our neighborhood was an electric charger was placed on Putnam Place, and I don't know if it was there when you did the survey, but it would be kind of problematic to figure out how to get onto Putnam, which is a one-way street, and access the charging that's on the left-hand corner there.
Sure. So let's look at, like I said, okay, so this is, you said this is on Putnam and it's between Gun Hill and
Reservoir Oval.
and Reservoir. Okay.
Yeah, so
So
it's- as you make the turn, the left-hand turn or the right-hand turn, whichever, going south, right at the corner there is a reserved parking with 2 slots for people who are just there to charge their car.
gotcha. Okay, so here's a map. And you know, like I said, we know that, you know, a left turn restriction is never going to be convenient for everybody, and it's one of those trade-offs that you know, tough trade-offs that ultimately have to be made. And we try to do what benefits the most people by the most. With that said, so if you're looking to get onto Putnam, the best way to do it would be if you follow my cursor here to make a right turn onto Perry, a left onto 11th, and a right on and a left on Putnam, and just go through Gun Hill. It's a little bit out of your way, but you still do have that access. The other thing you could do, and I was gonna, and I think that would be the best way to do it, because I think you're right. I think Putnam is a one-way southbound.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to call attention to the fact that the thing was there, because sometimes these plans are not, you know, coordinated with the information about the electric charging grid. So in any case, you should add it to your plan if you don't already have it there. And then the other thing I wanted to point out is the next street up that gives you access to Reservoir Oval is Tryon. And Tryon is a 2-way street. It's the exit for the famous Montefiore garage. And they have been, I've written to 311 numerous times. They don't maintain that street at all. And they don't seem to have a good relationship with the community and the impact they have upon it. So people that use Tryon very often, if they want to reverse direction, will turn the wrong way on Reservoir Oval to do a U-turn, because it's a 2-way street. And it causes, you know, potential danger to pedestrians and to people who are not expecting to see a car coming towards them on the one-way that is Reservoir Oval. So I'm just anticipating that since that's the way they use that street, that when you begin to restrict things in the neighborhood, you're going to see more Bronx New Yorkers being more resourceful and more demented in their choices about what they do to circumvent things. And it's the character of the place. You know, most of the streets that are one-way streets feature dozens of people on mopeds riding the wrong direction. And if they're really being conscientious about it, they're in the road as opposed to on the sidewalk. But, you know, somebody else earlier in the meeting mentioned chaos. There are no consequences for any of these actions, and it's going to be very difficult to have a beautiful plan that is exquisitely executed if there is no oversight or no consequences.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, the issues with enforcement and common sense always seem to have problems with perfect projects. You know, the thought process is there, but when you're using a thought process that includes common sense, unfortunately, the people traveling might not be using common sense. So these ideas, you know, become a little bit of an issue. Sarah, I thank you for your presentation. We don't seem to have any more questions from the peanut gallery, from the members.
I would just like to add that I would think that as a community member, Montefiore could do better. And I don't know who I would represent that to, but since they're making money on that block, both on Wayne and on Tryon, I think they should be more responsible.
all those parking
In the
facilities.
way the garage is operated and whatever else.
Because that one and the one, I think the other one is considered North Central's parking lot. The one that's closer to North Central. I mean, it takes almost an hour to get out of there in the afternoons.
North Central only has a parking lot underneath the hospital. We don't have a separate parking lot, just the one underneath the
So
hospital.
whose is the one that's across
That's
the street? Is
Montefiore
that-
as well.
That's also Monty's, okay. I wasn't sure who it actually belonged to, but I know I've
It's
gotten
this-
stuck
it's
there.
NG. It's a private company, but it is exclusively for the use of the hospital. Like if you live in the neighborhood, you cannot rent a space there because it's completely locked up by the hospital.
I'll also note if you, because we've met with Montefiore before, and as Keith mentioned, our Bronx office does have an ongoing relationship with them. So if you have particular comments, concerns, you can certainly forward them to the board, and they can forward them to us if they're DOT related. We can try to be a go-between maybe.
Well, I think, observing how they operate, if the DOT wanted to be helpful, it would be great to see what that flow specific to that garage looks like and maybe make recommendations for the benefit of the whole neighborhood. That'd be great.
Oh, definitely. And that's definitely part of the data that we've, that's part, we do have data at that intersection for that block. And we also, have made lots of observations in person at that block. So we're definitely taking all that into account. That's too big a facility to not, to not figure it in.
Yeah, that's the anchor property for the whole community, but community should be the key word.
Totally. Thank you.
All right. Once again, Sarah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your information. I see we just have Keith left from DOT.
I guess that's it for me. Thank you all so much. Have a great night. Appreciate you all.
Thank you very much. I think you're muted, Keith. Oh, okay. All right. All right. Being DOT is a little unavailable right now. I'm just going to jump forward to the MTA portion. We basically have our bus redesign supposed to be taking effect later this month. We were hoping for a presentation. Unfortunately, due to constraints and we weren't able to get one. Just so everyone is aware, on June 8th, from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., there will be a Zoom presentation with these changes that will be affecting our community. They asked that you register with them by June 6th. The briefing will cover what you can expect to see in the weeks immediately before and after the launch of the new local bus route, a recap of the goals and priorities on the project, and an opportunity to ask questions as we move into the final weeks of the implementation phase before launching the new local bus service on Sunday, June 26, 2022. So that is basically what we have in reference to the bus redesign. That'll be when it gets presented on June 8th. That'll give everyone hopefully the information and answer the questions that they have. Unfortunately, it looks like TD11 is not with us today. So we won't have a presentation on the safety on our D and 4 line. And all right, does anyone have any questions or concerns?
You mean anything, any
Sure.
subject?
Yeah, go ahead. Mhm.
Okay, I don't know if you got a chance to read it, but Chad sent you an email
Right.
some time ago,
Right.
today.
Right. So you guys send me an email 2 hours before the meeting starts and expect me to have an implementation plan. All right. You understand that he wants a permanent change to a temporary situation, right?
Yep, I got it. I just wanted, I wasn't sure if you had gotten a chance.
No,
to-
I got it. But like I said, he wants a permanent change to a temporary situation, right? The construction equipment that they have up, the scaffolding and all of that, that's a temporary situation. By the time they do the study, the stuff will be gone, theoretically, right? So that's something that we can handle. We need a list of the 311 calls that have been placed in reference to that. And then we can try to direct it through cabinet meeting.
All right, okay, I got
All
it.
right.
Should I clarify for everybody else?
Sure, why not? Let's go with that.
So Chad came across a member of the community who has an issue with the current conditions over at Kingsbridge Road and Bailey Avenue where school's located, and they seem to have some construction going on right now, which makes it a little hard to see vehicles coming from the turn. So Chad has sent out an email earlier today requesting more information about that, or if there was a study or anything done about that area. But as Edgar mentions, it's a temporary condition, so hopefully it'll just resolve itself. So
I mean, we have ways to resolve that, and we're going to act on it to properly resolve it. But a study would be for a permanent change or a permanent resolution, and that really wouldn't suffice on a temporary issue. You know what I'm saying?
right. No, he just asked me to see if it's brought up in the committee, if it had time. That's all.
Right. But that's the situation with that. I mean, it's a conversation I have to have with DOT. But like I said, I just got that email. He sent it at 3:30.
Something
I
like
really
that,
haven't
yeah.
had a chance to talk to DOT between 3:30 and the start of the meeting.
Yeah, I
But
know.
it is something that we are going to address. And I thank you for your bringing that up, because it is an issue. It is safety. It's definitely something we want to correct. It just a study really, I don't think, is the best avenue to try to correct that. We need to implement something, maybe if we can get traffic or something like that to kind of help people see what they need to see with people crossing the crosswalk.
Yeah, it was. I think that was just the first thing that came to his head because he was.
No, I'm just explaining. I'm just explaining why.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Thank you, Hugo, though.
Okay, all right.
Okay. Sirio, I see your hand up.
Yes, were you able to get a schedule for the painting of the retaining walls and the underpass before the summer, maybe, or winter, or spring?
No, with the improved weather, I don't know if I brought this up at the last meeting. They've started line painting down in Mott Haven, Mott Haven, and the area by 149th Street, and they're kind of, I guess, progressing northbound.
What does
So
that have to do with the graffiti walls? I mean, that you
I
said.
thought you were talking. I'm sorry. I thought you were going about the line painting because that was the one.
No,
One of the
no, I'm worried
had to do
about
with
the
weathers.
graffiti walls. I don't care about lines on the street. I want the walls clean. I want our neighborhood to look beautified for the summer.
Yep. I haven't gotten a schedule yet. I don't know. They haven't put one out. They'll usually put one out a couple of weeks before they're gonna start. When they figure out where they're gonna start and what they're doing.
And being that
haven't.
the community won't be working for the next 2 months, will I be able to get a copy of that?
Yeah,
schedule?
once it gets announced, once they send something to the community board, we'll send it out in that weekly bulletin that we normally do, like when they do the paving and stuff like that. So hopefully we'll be able to give you guys the information that you need. All right, Cyril, does that cover it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you also, man, because I know you do a lot for the community, and I know the thank yous sometimes aren't enough. You know,
Oh,
but
please,
thank
don't,
you.
don't brown nose me. Don't
No,
brown.
I'm not brown nosing you, bro. I'm being sincere. I'm being completely sincere.
Oh,
The
no,
stuff you do, the stuff you do with the 5-2 precinct, the stuff you do with the 5-2 precinct, the stuff you do with us, you bring pictures, you give us the what we need in order to get DOT to do what they gotta do. You
I'm
know,
very
and
bored with
not
my
everyone,
life. I don't know what to do.
not everyone does that. You know what I'm saying? So I thank you because you present the problem, you give solutions. Some people just present problem. You know, you know, we're about to take a summer break. You know, I just want to let you know before we break for the summer that we appreciate you. All right, Serial? Thank you. Davian, I still see your hand up. Did you have something else or Davian Littlefield? Okay, Andrew, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah. Posting it in a chat. Proposed motion to send a letter to the appropriate city agencies regarding the dangerous situation that is created by the continued parking of a food truck in the northbound lane on Bainbridge Avenue, just south of East Gun Hill Road.
I don't think we need a motion for that. I was going to directly address that with NYPD. I know there've been communication issues in the past between traffic and the precinct officers. From what I understand, that's been kind of smoothed over. So we have a little better communication with that. But it's definitely something that we're gonna address that. I'm not 100% sure who the better. I mean, it'd be nice to have everyone attack the problem, right? But I believe that would be more of a traffic issue than a 52nd precinct issue, right? But both can kind of work on it. So I'm gonna present it to them, since we have an open line of communication, and hopefully get that addressed. Are you okay with that, Andrew?
I respectfully disagree. I have called 311 only to have a 5-2 officer completely reject the complaint. I called back, I have better things to do, complained again, and I asked the operator to include these words. I will be sure to speak to the commanding officer of the precinct. I am not a 40-something year member of the community and on the community board to be disrespected by a police officer who later called back and gave me a hard time. In addition, we were just told by DOT that he wants our help. He said it's more than just the DOT dealing with it. They need their back to be covered. So I believe that a letter, the motion can be seconded and discussed, whatever, or voted down. But I will not withdraw the motion. Let it be voted on up or down. I believe that it should go to the executive board and the full board, because nothing for a police officer who's sworn to uphold the law to completely deny a complaint, closed complaint, closed, is outrageous. It shows to me that there is no line of communication and the issue needs to be escalated.
Okay. All right. So could you just please state the actual motion you want to bring forward, please? Just verbiage wise, please.
It's posted in a chat if people want to read it. Proposed motion to send a letter to the appropriate city agencies regarding
I
the
didn't
dangerous.
see it in the chat, Andrew. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to
It's in
answer.
mine. 7:47 p.m.
Right. No, I see it. I see it now.
Okay. To send a letter to the appropriate city agencies regarding the dangerous situation that is created by the continued parking of a food truck in the northbound lane on Bainbridge Avenue, just south of East Gun Hill Road.
Okay. Can we get a second on that, please?
No second, no vote.
We're on, you seem, all the members seem to be muted right now. Just give them a second to unmute themselves. If someone wants to second that motion. Okay, being that we haven't gotten a second to that motion, we can't have a vote on that motion. However, like I said, Andrew, I will definitely, in the background, address that with the city agencies, and I'm also gonna kind of put that in with the borough president, kind of, everyone, just so you know. All right, Andrew, because I understand the frustration. You're trying to get a written law enforced, and it's not happening. But I thank you for bringing it to our attention. Is there anything else anyone has? Lowell? I see your
Yeah.
hand up.
I think Keith suggested, and he's willing to change the signage,
Right,
because no standing literally means if someone is sitting in the car, which I do with my husband,
right.
you can't get a ticket, supposedly. Okay, but if you put whatever the correct term he used, maybe we could push it out with, we have the correct
But
signage.
the thing that was commented on right after Keith, because what was her name? Sarah made mention of changing the signage. But at the end of the day, no matter what sign it says, people from Mars can park here. It all has to do with enforcement. So you can
Okay.
change the sign to whatever, but like I said, we are gonna definitely address that. But we'll see from DOT if they can make that change and what the change would be, and if it affects the situation.
And I think the other circumstances too, somebody's got to sit down with Montefiore and point out, this is part of your, and maybe the unions at Montefiore saying, your people are supporting these food trucks. Why?
Right.
Because they want to go outside the hospital for food, because the food in the hospital is too expensive. They want to get fresh air.
It's all about convenience, right? I don't want to
Convenience.
walk 3 blocks to the deli to get something if they
Right,
can be
but
right
I
in front of
think
the door.
maybe if we
Right.
reached out and maybe outside the box and had a discussion with some of the unions saying, hey, we're trying to improve the flow to get people to and from the hospital quicker. Your union members who drive and or probably take the bus get to work at a better time. Let's think outside the box and approach to some of those unions and say, let's have a dialogue on this to see how we can help the people who work for Montefiore get to work on time
Right.
and or get back to their families at a more reasonable time.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you for that, Lowell. Does anyone have anything to bring up? Anything else?
David has a question in the chat.
What was that?
David has a question in the chat, 7:48 PM. Additional EV chargers, who to approach about it?
They're being installed. They
I guess I'm just trying to figure out if there's someone that I can be supportive and contact about additional ones going in, if the Putnam one ends up being a
Just to
nightmare.
give you a heads up, Davian, we've been kind of working on that, right? The city came up with a plan of how many of the charging stations that are being installed. We've had a long time issue with the charging station, both inside the Gun Hill parking lot and the 190th Street parking lot. They both have charging stations that have been inoperative for a very, very long time. According to DOT, they finally made the contractual connections that they needed to get the proper vendor to fix those. I'm hoping that in doing so, that should alleviate the problem a little bit. I know a lot of people want to start buying electric cars, and I believe that we had an open registry with DOT for people who wanted to suggest sites, because they've got one by Lehman College, they've got the one at the parking lot, and they're going around the 5 boroughs installing them. At first, it's going to seem like it takes forever, but I think the process is improving. I don't know if
I think the system, that flow system that they put in on Putnam's awesome.
right.
But are these are now locations where I can see where they're going in or where they're already?
Yeah, I believe if you go onto the DOT website, had a listing of where they're gonna go, and then they had like like the first 20 that are gonna go in. They put a couple in each community board, kind of. But
Yeah.
I believe DOT had a list of what locations were up and coming. I can check back on that, and if there is such a list, I'll have it sent out on the. Do you receive the CB7 bulletins at all?
I don't know. I actually, I'm moving, so I have a
Okay.
whole new set of circumstances.
Right.
I'm moving to Spite and Dibble, so now I have to
Right.
relearn things. Maybe they're doing stuff there, or I didn't even know there was one at Lehman. That would be great, because
Yeah,
that's like
it's
halfway there.
it's right by the front gate as you come in on Bedford Park.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. But I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna see if there is an updated list on that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try
I mean, since I got the notice that you were
I
having a
think the
meeting,
link
I
was
must
just
be
posted
getting-
in the chat.
Was
The
it?
link was posted in the chat.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
Speaking about those ones, the ones near Lehman, during the weekend, people who go to Harris Field, they just take over those electric charging stations, and when an actual electric car needs it, they cannot use them.
Okay. Thank you for that information.
And I'm glad that we're making progress, because Edgar, I was definitely one of the people that was livid about the stuff in the municipal parking lot.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
you heard from me on a weekly basis back in the day.
Yeah, we kept addressing DOT, and DOT kept telling us they're working on it. Like I said, the last piece of news that we got from DOT was they actually have a vendor that's going to be servicing them, and both the charging station at 190th at the parking lot there, and the parking lot on Jerome and Gun Hill should be getting serviced. I don't know. Part of it is ordering the parts, they said, but whatever they needed to do, they looks like they did, and hopefully we'll have the charging stations available. I'd like to thank the Norwood News for assisting with the information. I know you guys do a lot of conscientious reporting out there, and thank you for putting up the information that are that's pertinent to our conversation. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Edgar. No worries.
Mhm. Okay, so finally, do we have any more suggestions on our next agenda for September? All right, just a heads up for everyone. There was supposed to be a presentation today from an organization that is doing, I don't know exactly what they're doing, right? Because they didn't make their presentation, but they're supposed to be working on buses that have a smaller carbon footprint. I don't know if they're using compressed gas or what the actual procedure is, but they're supposed to be using healthier buses. I think Gun Hill was one of the first bus depots that was supposed to be running it. They were supposed to present today, but unfortunately they never got back to me with their presentation. So unfortunately, we weren't able to get that presentation. Also, as a heads up from DOT, we had a couple of months ago, Gun Hill Bid put out a request for artwork. There's supposed to be, if I'm not mistaken, trying to beautify Gun Hill Road, and they were gonna actually put artwork in the crosswalks. That's still an ongoing thing with them. They are actively looking for artists that are willing to put that work in. But there hasn't been a final decision yet, as far as I know. So being we have no suggestions for September's meeting, suggest we go for closing of the meeting.
A quick, it's Andrew.
Yes, Andrew.
I've put this up before. I'd like City Bike to provide the community board with data
Yeah,
that
that request,
indicate
sorry.
the usage of the bike locations so that we can remove the ones that are not being used and maybe expand the ones that are overused or whatever.
Right.
I mean, I see no adjustment or flexibility at all.
Mhm.
And I think
No,
that's
thank you
the way to
for that, Andrew. That was my fault. I'm sorry. I put in the request through DOT, right? Because DOT is kind of our pipeline to City Bike, to see if they can get those numbers to us. They haven't responded with those numbers, but the request is into DOT. I don't know. I'm gonna, I guess, see if there's any other administrative way I can try to contact City Bike. But up till now, DOT's been our pipeline to City Bike. Also, I believe if you go on the DOT's website, they have a place where you can make suggestions for for City Bike. I know it used to include where there should be bike parking for City Bike. So I would assume that they would also take recommendations for those that should be removed. Because yeah, like you said, I've witnessed it myself. There's some of these places, you got 3 bikes. You walk by, whether it's 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all they have there are 3 bikes. So I don't know how much usage they can actually be recording. So hopefully we can get a presentation for them in September, because that's important information. Hopefully that's enough time for them to put together a usage matrix, which I guess is the biggest thing, is them actually recording the data and properly presenting the data. But the request was put into DOT for that information, Andrew.
Thank you.
Right. Okay. So being we have no further business being brought forth to the committee, I suggest we adjourn the meeting. Can I get an acknowledgement from everyone, please?
I
Motion
move
to
that we
adjourn.
adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Lowell.
Second, Daisy.
Thank you, Daisy. All those in agreement?
Aye.
Anyone in opposition? All right, being that there are no one opposed to us ending this meeting, everyone have a safe summer. Hopefully it's a safe summer for everyone. And we can make some changes for the summer. There's a lot of things that are in the works, you know, the bus safety with the Zero project, and there's a lot of things that should be happening, but it's just a matter of the things actually happening. I'd like to thank everyone and have a good evening. I appreciate everyone's
Is the general
participation.
meeting in person? Does anybody know?
As of now, the general meeting is in person. It's listed as being in person. They seem to be of the hopefulness or the possibility of it being resorted to Zoom. But as of right now, officially, the standing is that it is going to be an in-person meeting.
See you then.
Okay, thank you, and everyone have a safe evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.
Night.
Aye, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye, Edgar.
All right, Eric, have a good evening. Be safe.
You too.